Hello and welcome to the Shiny New Object podcast. Before we crack on with our interview today, I would like to thank our sponsor, Coros. Coros was very recently born after the coming together of Spreadfast and Lithium. Coros is a tech software company that has over 15 years of leadership in marketing, care and communities. And Coros now offers one platform that unites marketing and care and helps brands create customers for life. Please go and check those guys out at Coros.com. That's KHOROS.com. Okay, on with the show. Hello and welcome to the Shiny New Object podcast. My name is Tom Ollerton and this is a show about the future of marketing where every week I get to interview someone who is inspirational, cool, exciting, or all those things, and this week is no different. I have Fátima Diez, who is the International Brand and Comms Manager at Five Guys, and I was called to attention about you because you were one of the drums 50 under 30. Is that right? Have I got those numbers right? So a bit of a rising star. So what a treat and congratulations!
Thank you so much. It was a really nice surprise.
It was a surprise. You didn't like.
I applied for it, but the getting it was a surprise.
Right. Okay. Well, that's fantastic. So yeah. What do you do? What's your role at Five Guys? How does that work?
I make people want burgers in Spain, France, and Germany, and obviously the UK. And we're going to open in Portugal this year. So my whole role is to make people love our brand without putting any money into making people love our brand.
Right, I'm going to have to stop you on that. What do you mean? So you don't put any money into making people love the brand? How is that possible?
Our marketing budget is just a retainer on our PR partners on each country, who act as a press office. So whenever somebody wants to get in touch with us, they will address it, but they are not going to be chasing people. We don't do any media investment, we don't do any vouchering, we don't pay influencers. So it's all about growing genuine love rather than paying people to love us.
So how do you do that?
Well, it's all about giving the customers a voice. So if you listen to what people are saying about your brand, then you can act on it faster. And this doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to change our menu. The only change in our menu on the last 30 years has been the shakes. It's more about being there when they need you. So this in a store means excellent customer service. So when anybody comes and has any type of issue, we make sure to address it right there. But that extends also to social. So whichever channel they're on, we are present, and we aim to reply to them as soon as possible to try and turn around any possible bad experience, but also extend good experiences. So if somebody says, "Oh, I love Five Guys," we are gonna be there to say, "Oh, really? When did you come last time? We're so happy to hear that," and just foster that type of conversation so it grows wider.
And where do you do this? Is this across all the social channels, or do you stick specifically to Twitter? Or?
We are on the main three, so Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We tried with Snapchat for a little while, but we realized that our customers didn't really want to talk with us there. They really, really like talking about us there and doing snaps in our stores, but they didn't really want to engage with us. And again, it comes down to listening to the customers. If they're not engaging with you on one channel, but you know for sure that they are, using your filters and using your image there, you just need to know when to step back.
Cool. So we'll come back to that stuff, but there's already two excellent quotes there. Sort of growing genuine love instead of paying people to love us is something that I think we could all learn from at times. So some getting to know you questions. So you are one of the 50 under 30. So you must have accrued quite a lot of experience now. So what advice would you give to a smart, driven student that was doing all of the right things, but what extra do they need to do to get into our industry?
Well, I don't think you can be doing all of the right things because there's a lot to do. Nowadays, there's so much information out there. There's always going to be somebody who's more prepared than you for whatever it is that you want to do. My advice would definitely be don't close yourself to opportunities. I didn't study marketing. I did love it, but I didn't study it.
What did you study?
I studied translation and interpreting of English and German into Spanish.
Right.
And I was, my dream was to be an interpreter in the European Parliament. And even though I did love marketing, and I was very torn between studying translation or marketing, but when I was looking for a job, when I was teaching Spanish in Reading, the Burger King graduate scheme came along, and I saw the opportunity to jump on something that I genuinely liked, which was marketing in a really big brand. So I just went for it. Did I ever think that I would be working on burgers? No, never before. But it's a matter of being open to an opportunity to learn in any way.
Early tough question. What did you learn from studying translation and interpreting that you've applied to your job?
Is very straightforward, but it's actually speaking in other people's language. So I am naturally a very concept-focused and idea-focused person, not necessarily a metrics-focused person. But one thing that I learned very early on at Burger King was, because it was a private equity, it was to speak in numbers. So one thing that I learned is that even though I might be more comfortable talking about a project or an idea in the conceptual sense, so for instance, this will be really cool and it will grow love, maybe the finance director doesn't want to hear about being very cool and growing love. They want to hear about, okay, how much money are you going to get me, or how much reach, or how can I measure this? So I think that's a really important topic within business, is making sure that you're not speaking your own language, but the language that the person that you're trying to convince or that you're trying to get on board is understanding exactly what you're saying. So you need to speak this.
That is so interesting. Make sure you speak the language of the person that you want to convince. So how do you work that out? So give me a practical example of how you do that. So that's incredibly smart. I'm also a creative person, and having set up my business, learning to speak in numbers is difficult, man. So how do you firstly work out the language that the other person is speaking in, and then how do you adapt and develop that own ability?
For me, it's all about listening. I just listen to anybody that I can, and if you're able to look at how they are measuring their own success, that's the key, because most people are not doing what I just said. Most people are speaking in their own language and put on their priorities first. But if you actually pay attention to how other people are presenting their professional career or their successes or their projects, you can see which are the priorities for them. So for instance, within operations, they're going to be talking about quality assurance and standards, and who has done the most loyal to the guidebook or faithful to the guidebook approach. While, as I was saying, in finance, they might be talking about who has reduced costs the most. So it's down to paying attention to what other people are saying and how they're saying it.
So I agree. I agree that it's all about listening, but people struggle with that, I think. And so how do you? It sounds like a ridiculous question, but how do you listen well? Like, because part of listening is not talking, but there's also active listening.
Yes.
How would you, going back to the student, say this person was, you into the idea of listening? How do you do it in an effective way?
I do it, so I don't have a science for it. I'm just genuinely curious, so it comes kind of naturally to me. I just want to learn as much as I can from anyone I can. And it sounds a bit narcissistic or egotistical rather. But the way that I do it is by comparing what they say to the way that I would have said it, or the priorities that they are highlighting versus the priorities that I would highlight.
And do you do that in the moment, or is that a kind of retrospective thing?
Retrospectively.
Right.
At first you need to gather all the information and process it. And you also need to understand what they're saying, because sometimes mainly with finance it's a bit tricky. So it's once you have understood what they're saying, then you can actually
so that's a good recommendation. What are the bad recommendations you hear in our industry, or have you heard?
I think it's all about the buzzwords. For marketing, I think, and this is a big generalization, I think we all love novelty. If there's something, shiny new objects that we could be using, everybody's going to jump on it. And there are things that are very, very useful, but maybe not for your business. There are things like, there's a big conversation about purpose right now. Maybe purpose works for some businesses, but for others not. You cannot say as a let's say a very environmentally unfriendly company that you're here for the future of the earth. That would be completely outrageous. But also, if you're trying to make purpose the central topic of your company, is still gonna backlash, even if it's unrelated to the environment, because people are gonna say, oh, okay, you're doing great things for the economy, but actually you're killing our earth. So it doesn't really help, does it? So it's little buzzwords like that, like programmatic. Programmatic might be very helpful for some businesses, but for others, not that much.
So how do you, in your role, work out which of the trends to follow?
I have become completely brainwashed into the brand. In my first 3 weeks in Five Guys, they took me to the store to just work in the store as a crew member, which I actively asked for, but they were doing it anyway, to be completely honest. And I think that's the best way that I could have understood exactly what goes on in the store and what's important for the brand versus what you want for the brand. If you come into a new business, there can be two things that happen. One is that you're a huge fan already and you just think that they're the coolest thing ever and that you're so lucky to be here. And then you get the tunnel vision of we're very cool and we only do cool things. Or that you don't know it yet and you think, oh, I could do X, Y, and Z changes that would make me have known it before. Both of those approaches are wrong. You need to actually keep true to the brand and know what is right for it from the brand perspective. So when I finished my training in the store, I thought I knew what Five Guys needed, and I was very eager to change a lot of things.
What do you mean what Five Guys needed in terms of service or in terms of
of marketing?
Right, okay.
All the things that they were not doing and I wanted to do, and I knew that they didn't invest in media. But I was thinking, we could do big parties and other ways of raising word of mouth. But then the very next thing that they did is take me to the US to meet the original team that have been there for 30 years and understand exactly what has been the roadmap and the reasoning behind everything. Even within our stores, we have a book that has all the whys. So if anybody asks why we do anything, like why do you cut the lettuce by hand, or why is your food fresh, all our crew can say why it has happened. So the brand is engraved on every single little bit of the business. It becomes really instinctive to know what works for you and what doesn't when you have already been brainwashed in this way.
So that's very interesting, and why it's interesting to me at this point in time is because launching my own business, you read everywhere, you got to have a why, you've got to know what your why is, and trying to drag the team through working out what our why is just really painful, because it ends up being this kind of horrible PowerPoint exercise, like this is our why, ... And so I'm curious to know, so this is a business who's done this 30 years ago and has kind of continually repeated doing it. So what is Five Guys why? Why do they do what they do?
Well, when I said the Book of Whys, I meant in a very operational approach. why are we doing each little task rather than why is our business.
Right. Okay.
It's a very anti-marketing approach that they have, anti-strategic.
Tell me.
I don't think they had ever heard of Simon Sinek until very recently, when my new boss came into the company. But yeah, the way that they did it was because they are completely operations focused. So they think that the best way to improve operations is if people understand the reason behind the processes and the practices that they are carrying out, rather than trying to improve them. These were 5 brothers who have spent 15 years of their life in a store growing the business by making burgers themselves. So they have experimented with every possible option, and they have reached the best possible approach for every little detail, from like the distance between the fryer and the burger line is absolutely mad once you get into it. So when I said the whys, I mean the reasoning why you shouldn't try and change it and why it's the best possible approach. When it comes to the 5 guys, why as a business, there wasn't any. We make burgers and fries. We're not trying to change the world. We're trying to make the best possible burgers and fries for each person, which is why it's customizable. We're not we're not challenging society. And I think that has been a really helpful philosophy for the brands. It's not taking ourselves too seriously or trying to be anything that we're not. Once people come into the doors, once people come through the doors, we try to make the experience the best possible, because that's what they're here for. And it might change the day, and that's amazing. But we know that it's not going to be a life-changing, oh my God, I'm a different person because I came today. So
far, this conversation has been all based around a lot of successes and, you know, some great stuff. But I'm assuming at various times things have gone wrong. So what is that total disaster in your career that you just couldn't believe was happening to you, but you're so glad in retrospect that it did?
It wasn't a big disaster because I don't have that much experience yet. I think the worst disasters are still ahead of me. Hopefully, because it would not be an interesting career without any big leap. But one that I remember quite vividly was a few years ago. I was handling social media for a company that I'm not going to name. And we wanted to do, it was in the times that being reactive on Twitter was very trendy, and it was like you have to do it very quickly on whatever happens. And it was very close after the Oreo Super Bowl ad that was such a big thing. So everybody wanted to replicate it. And we were tasked with just following the Oscars and see if anything happens in the Oscars and we can do something about it. Turns out, and I had this feeling because I was handling social media at the time, so I knew that nobody had mentioned the Oscars, but I didn't say anything because at the end of the day my boss had said that we had to cover the Oscars, so let's just do it. They were the most boring Oscars ever. It was the most vanilla ceremony that I had ever seen. There were not even news after those Oscars of anything that may have happened. We tried to make a couple of jokes. They were really cringy. Nobody was interacting with it because our customers were not interested in the Oscars. They have not talked about the Oscars or interacted with around it. So what I had to learn from it was, A, listen to your customers first of all. If they're not interested on this topic, why are you? And B, don't try and force it. If it comes naturally and it's a natural brand alignment, then people will take it on board, even if they are not as interested on the topic. But if it has nothing to do, why are you trying to just jump on something just because it's trendy?
So it's interesting you say that, because actually someone who's been on the podcast twice is a guy called Jerry Dakin, who was relatively close to the Oreo world. When was it, Mondelez?
Yeah.
And he wrote a tweet recently. I don't have it to hand, but it was something along the lines of, it feels really guilty or bad for being involved in some way within the Oreo thing, because it created an expectation in the industry that amazing social media marketing was coming up with something reactive because then it would go viral and you get like a crazy return for your investment. And he said that actually they did a fairly rigorous study, and it transpired that having a kind of always on paid plan was far more effective than just trying to land these kind of one-off mega moments. So he can come on and explain himself next time. So I guess to get to being in the drums 30 under 50 under 30, you must have quite a lot of work to do, and you're pretty senior and managing lots of markets, so you must get overwhelmed from time to time. How do you deal with that?
It does happen. I mean, we are the fastest growing fast casual business, restaurant business in the UK ever, which means that we open a store almost every week. Really? In any of our countries. Last year there was a point that we're opening 4 stores, 1 on each country, on the same day. So it does get very stressful. What I try to do when this happens is just take some time. Just take a few minutes. Just get out of your desk. Get maybe out of the office if you're able to, and just do something completely unrelated to work. Because I am very passionate about everything that I do, and the same way that I was saying before, we're doing burgers and fries, we're not saving the world here. I still do get incredibly obsessed with whichever task I'm doing, so this happens quite a lot to me, and I just find that disconnecting fully from what you're doing and just getting 10-15 minutes of clearing your head by not thinking about it does help a lot when you come back into it.
But how do you actually do that? So yes, I agree, but how do you do, like, everything's going crazy, you've got like phones ringing, emails like getting jammed up, and then how do you know when to go, right, I'm going to get out of the office for 15 minutes, or I'm going to go and take that break, or I'm going to go and sit on my own? Like, because I often find that the more busy I get, the harder it is to know that I'm stressed, to know that I'm busy, to know that I take a break. So how do you do that?
For me, is if there's something that has a very obvious solution and I'm not giving it straight away. So for instance, if somebody's asking you, where are you with the printing of this poster? And you know the answer, but you still don't want to reply to them because you're so overwhelmed that you just cannot find the words to write an email. That's for me is the breaking point. I'm like, the business is not going to fall apart just because I'm not in my desk for half an hour.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna notice it. Only the people calling me, who I can call afterwards, or the people sending me an email.
That's so interesting. So when you know the answer to something, you can't be bothered to send them the answer. That's your kind of red flag.
Yes, because for me, when it comes to work, I always try and answer emails as quick as possible, answer calls straight away. Everything that relates to working with somebody else, I try to put ahead, because I know that if I need to deliver something and I am not on time, I can always work more hours in the evening. But if somebody needs something urgent from me, they might not get that extra deadline, so I always put somebody else's request if it seems relatively urgent before mine.
And when you take that break, what do you do? Are you like a meditation apps person, or you just go and find a tree and sit in it? Like, what's your...
I watch YouTube.
You watch YouTube?
Yeah. I'm not a very calm person. Meditation is not for me. I know that it's really helpful, and my partner is trying to get me into it because it would definitely help me a lot. But I'm so restless. I don't think I can actually sit down and do nothing for 5 minutes. And it's completely unhealthy, and I understand that.
So what do you watch on YouTube? What do you do? Like, just
really stupid videos.
Do you search, or do you just like see what comes
I am
up?
Subscribed to quite a few vloggers that are just complete comedians. So it's just something as silly as, Curtis Connor, who is a blogger, a YouTuber. And it's just making fun of different things like TikTok videos or pranksters on Instagram. And it's something completely silly, but the key is that it's completely unrelated to what I'm doing. And it makes my mind go blank. It doesn't make me think about anything. So for me, that's kind of my meditation. I'm not thinking about anything. I'm not focusing on anything. I'm just emptying my mind.
And is it always humor based? Are you trying to get a laugh out of yourself?
It needs to be uplifting because,
Yeah, it's interesting the role of humor at work. That it's an incredibly uniting thing for teams. So if you'll share some kind of sense of humor, but I've never heard anyone like prescribe it like in such a kind of like, right, I'm going to take 15 minutes, I'm going to laugh, I'm going to have a good time. But yeah, it's brilliant. It's such a great idea.
I was learning yesterday about laughing yoga.
Yes,
so other people do prescribe it. It's not a novel idea. I wish it was. But
the interesting thing about laughter yoga is that apparently, like when you laugh, you physiologically you benefit quite a lot, but your body can't tell if you're faking it or not. So even if you put it on, then you still get the physiological benefits.
Oh, it's like fake it till you make it.
In a kind of weird. How it's yoga, I don't know. But anyway, we can potentially come back to that. So. So in the last 5 years, what new belief or behaviour has had a significant impact on your work life?
Work-life balance. When you're I'm going to say passionate rather than obsessive.
Passionate versus what?
Obsessive.
Right, okay.
When you're so passionate about what you do, as I am, and you just want to work 24/7 because you just really want to do your best, it ends up taking a toll on you. And one thing that my previous brand director taught me is that you actually perform better when you know how to separate your life from your work and take a little bit of time to do your own thing and to make yourself happy. I think that you can try your best to perform 24/7 at everything that you do, but you're human, so you're gonna end up burning. Rather than try and do your best in a very short period of time, if you actually take a moment to, and by a moment I mean, the weekends.
15 minutes of YouTube.
The weekends, the evenings, your personal time to do your own thing, you're going to have better ideas because you come across more stuff that is not necessarily brand focused or industry focused. You're going to perform better because you're happier. You have a life outside of work that makes work more worth it. So it's something that seems really silly and straightforward, but when you are as focused as I tend to be, you sometimes need to hear it from somebody else or see it in practice. And
so it's interesting that your new belief is work-life balance, that it actually exists. But what tools or processes or techniques do you have in place to make sure that you have a work-life balance?
I don't have my notifications for emails on, and that helps massively. Because before I would have my emails, because I was saying before, I try to reply to emails as soon as possible. Not only if they come from my boss, if they come from anybody. Why? Because I just want to be helpful. Right. And I want to leave a good reputation behind me and around me. I just want to help people and make sure that whatever they need from me, they're getting. So it's I don't know where it's coming from. We could get into the whole psychological thing, but that's just who I am. I try to make things work. So I would be looking at my phone constantly, trying to reply to every single thing that came through. And now that I don't have it on, I actually can focus on other things. Also buying this watch that has the notifications from my phone in, so whenever I get a WhatsApp or a message or anything, I can just see it on my watch. Really helps because it has made me not have my phone on my hand all the time. Oh, so it just says you got a notification, it doesn't tell you? It can tell you what, or it can just tell you that you have a notification. Right, so you get the kind of little satisfaction that someone sent you a message, but... Exactly. Wow, that would drive me crazy. Oh, I love it because I have it to be able to see them. Yeah. But the whole point is that before I would have my phone on my hand all the time. So whenever I go bored for 5 seconds, whenever I'm on YouTube, whenever I'm doing anything that is not an activity for 5 seconds, I would look at my phone, and it would be the same routine. It would be Instagram, Gmail, work mail. And now I look at it a lot less, just because it's not always in my hand. So it's very helpful because it's not instant access to work.
Yeah, I'm slightly more extreme than that. I have no notifications on my phone, and I'll only see if I have a call if I'm looking at it, which drives my other half absolutely crazy. But it's like, it basically means that I'm in control of all of the information when I want to be in control of it. Because someone calls you or messages you, like they've said, I'm going to try and interrupt what you're doing. So you're by having your notifications on, I feel, for me, that you're letting other people control you. And even worse than that, you tell me I'm an idiot for saying this, but I think that you're also giving over control of your life to user experience designers in California. So whoever designs Instagram or Gmail or WhatsApp, like there's a whole team of people who pay loads of money to make sure that you stay on that app.
Definitely.
And they don't care what I want. They care what they want. And so the longer I spend in any of those products, I feel that like they are manipulating me, as opposed to me getting the most out of what I want out of those things.
Yeah,
I
can see it. Yeah, that works really well when you have self-control. I don't know what that is. So I'm always looking to see if something has happened. However, the fact of having it on my wrist, it just, if it vibrates, I know that I have something and I can just check it whenever. Yeah. But the bigger thing is that I know that if this watch is not vibrating, I don't have to look at my phone because nothing is on.
Right, yeah.
That's what helps. Because otherwise I would just try and see whether there's something going on every single time and log in.
So this all brings us quite beautifully round to your shiny new object, which is, what's the exact word we used? We said well-being.
Yes.
So can you explain to the audience what well-being is as you see it?
It's taking care of yourself in every possible way. I was saying before, but off the record. Now I say it on the record. I was saying that when I was a teenager, I hated the gym or anything that had to do with exercise. I did not eat well. And it was part of, being a rebellious teen. Nowadays, I see my younger cousins, and they are amazing. They go to the gym, they eat well, they do voluntary work for causes. They are trying to be inspiring rather than, admire stars that seem to lead perfect lives. They try to lead themselves a perfect life. And I just find that so pure and nice that Gen Z and these younger generations are making themselves better rather than making themselves worse just to be a emotional rebellion,
Yeah, well, I was the same. I was like, it was all about how much I could drink and smoke. That was it. That was like, be as rock and roll as possible. And I have a similar experience, with my younger relatives. It's just like, it just seems exhausting, the amount of like working out and being good and eating well that they have to do. I got shouted at for putting butter on my nephew's toast. He was just, what are you trying to do? Kill me. I'm like,
Be extreme.
Bit extreme.
No, but I just think that, they have access to all this information and they know that the decisions that they take now are going to be paying a toll later on in life. So they know that eating healthy and exercising and all these investments that they are doing now are going to mean that their middle-aged selves are going to look a lot better than us. They're going to be amazing, and they're going to be they're going to be living long, healthy lives if everything goes well. So I just find it very inspiring because before it was all about how can you have the most fun, and it doesn't matter if you are hurting yourself in the process, getting wasted or whatever. Now it's all about how can I experience the most possible, and experiencing the most possible involves me being able to experience this. So it involves me being in my most in my best possible state, both mentally and physically. While before you wouldn't openly talk about your mental health with people, now society is encouraging these conversations to happen just to make sure that you're taking the best possible care of yourself. And I just find it really, really impressive as a behavior, as a trend. Because before we were, as you were saying, we were under the ruling of these big companies who don't necessarily have the best for us in mind. And now these companies need to have the best for us in mind, because customers, and with each generation this is getting more extreme, they are so savvy that they can see perfectly through everything that big companies are doing. They can perfectly spot a marketing stunt instinctively, because they have been born surrounded by advertising and by PR campaigns.
I don't know if I agree with that. Yes, the kind of traditional old school advertising campaign of like, hey, we are this, we stand for that. Yeah, they can call bullshit on that. But I think the way that not everyone has to see the same advert can start to affect people in a very different way. Mm-hmm. So, like, one of the things we do is we operate advertising at a massive scale. So not everyone sees the same thing, and we start to work on aggregate to work out what people want. And so there's no way that your nephew or niece or cousin would know that they're being served a red ad, whereas their friend is being served an orange ad. But on aggregate, like, the red ad might work better than the orange. So I think that brands are becoming more sophisticated in hiding their intention, and I think that working at scale with AI, whatever, makes that possible. And I think that, I don't know, for example, I met a footwear retailer today, and the older members in the team were like, oh my god, I'm like so sick of their adverts, they're just everywhere on Facebook. But someone who was like 3 years younger than that cut-off group, I just had no idea that these things even existed. So even though that person didn't see the ad, they're sort of being manipulated in a sense that they don't even have the opportunity to be interested in that brand. So I think that brands have a much more secretive ability to influence, and I don't think they need to be so bold.
Definitely. I do agree with that, in the sense that yes, you can tailor your message to whoever you want, and you can try and utilize different pillars of your brand to different audiences. But I mean it more in the sense of you need to be more transparent, because the second that you're not, somebody's going to find out. And in the globalized world that we live now, if you have one YouTuber saying that your brand is shady because X, Y, and Z, that could go viral. People love some beef between brands and between influencers and brands. So what I meant by they need to have your best interest in mind is that they cannot be as harmful or as openly harmful as they could have been before. They cannot be promoting a very imbalanced lifestyle in some ways. Even for us as Five Guys, we sell burgers. We're not in the healthiest industry, but the way that we try to convey our message is by saying, this is a treat. It's down to you if you want to eat it every day. We are not asking you to eat burgers every day. Great if you do for us, welcome. But we are not trying to sell to your children. We're not trying to make you come very often. This is an occasion, and this is a treat. So rather than do they have ulterior motives? Yes, all businesses want to make money. Of course, they're not charities. They're not here for the genuine good. But I think that the behaviors or the type of products that they promote and develop need to be a bit more focused on helping you in your life, on improving your life, and on making your experiences better. So, for instance, the Samsung that we were talking about before, the Samsung S10, we were looking at it the other day, and my friend was showing me that it has an app tracker, so it can tell you how many times you have spent, how many hours, so how much time you have spent on each app. So it tells you, today out of 24 hours you have been on your phone 19. Maybe that's not very healthy. You have been watching videos out of those 19 hours 50% of the time. What have you been doing with your time? It doesn't pose any questions, but it does put the data in front of you for you to be able to correct it. And you can block notifications from different apps, as in every phone. You can put a timer so you don't receive any notifications until, let's say, 7 p.m. And that's when you look at your phone and see everything that has been going on during the day. So it's a product that, in theory, is going against itself, because your phone is helping you not to use your phone. So it's the amortization, the usage. Its usage goes down, so it lasts longer, and you buy less phones. Yeah, technically it goes against the brand, but also the fact that it's promoting a healthier mental state by not looking at your phone all the time. It makes for a really good case in favor of that brand as a consumer. So this is what I mean. It doesn't need to. This new approach doesn't need to be detrimental to your brand, but it make the reaps of putting the effort into making people's lives better or easier are always going to be there, even if they're not directly visible.
Yeah, that's so interesting. The idea that. Well, it's what you said before, like how with this sort of Gen Z attitude is, how can I experience the most possible, and in order to do that you need to be in your best state possible, mentally or physically, but your devices need to work into that. Like if you're on your phone all day, then you're not experience life to the full. So that's really interesting. So just to kind of finish off, so you make a really strong point about that brands need to focus on improving customers' lives, even if they are a treat, Five Guys. But if someone's listening to this podcast who's a brand manager or works on a brand somewhere else, how would you suggest that they take your advice forward into their work?
We would go back to people talking other people's languages. If you listen to your customer, which is, the key thing for any marketers. I can't believe that there are companies out there who are not investing in customer insight. If you do listen to your customer and you take their priorities on board, you're gonna make more money 100%. That's a given. You just need to apply it effectively. Once you have taken that customer feedback or opinions or their voice, once you have taken the customer voice, then you can go into your own business and say, hey guys, I think that if we focus on X, Y, and Z, we could be growing in these categories or in these areas of the business. And you would be benefiting in two ways. One is that, yes, your business is going to grow and you're going to be making a lot more commercial achievements for yourself and your career, but B, you will feel better because you're doing good in the world, which is something that all marketers aim to do, otherwise purpose wouldn't be such a big thing right now. So it's a matter of listening to your customers and then translating that internally into results by translating it into other people's languages.
That was a perfect way to finish. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If the listeners to this podcast wanted to get in touch with you, how would you like them to do that?
They can reach out to me via email on f10piriz@gmail.com.
Do you want to say that again, just in case?
f10piriz@gmail.com. I don't have a personalized email yet.
Fantastic. Cool. Well, look, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tom. It has been great talking with you.